When I was in Latakia countryside, people came up to us and they described in detail finding dead relatives either in a mass grave or in their homes in the village.
اللي هن بيكونوا مرتك وابنك. مرتي وابني ايوه. كيف قتلوهم؟
قتلوهم كويس. وهلا بتروح بتشوفي دمي كما استاذوا لهلا دمي.
دمهم وين؟
بتشوفي بالبيت.
بالبيت.
تعال شوفي.
يلا أنا وراك.
On August the 4th, at dawn, over 20 different armed opposition groups launched an offensive campaign in Latakia countryside. They then entered the villages and began going from house to house. In some cases, executed residents, in others, shot at residents that were desperately trying to flee. The villages that they targeted are Alawite villages. Baruda was the site from which government forces were shelling opposition strongholds. Taking Baruda and neighboring Alawite villages would be a shot into the heartland of Assad's stronghold, coming that much closer to Assad's hometown of Kardaha, and that much closer to Latakia city, an area of strong support for the government. These villages are on the front line of what is an increasingly sectarian war between government forces and opposition forces. When we arrived in the countryside, what we saw was that village after village, homes had been destroyed, homes had been burnt, and that the population was by and large not around. One of the homes that I visited in Baruda was that of Hassan Shibli. Hassan Shibli told me how he had to make the difficult decision of fleeing in the morning hours of August the 4th, leaving behind his wife and his son who was paralyzed.
تعال شوف الطلقة هي هون وهون. طيب ده معك. طلقات. هاي طلقة هي الرصاص شو والله كانت هون بيري. هاي هون وهون وهون. والدم طير شي فوق لي.
We looked into statements and videos posted by the opposition groups that were involved in the offensive. I was able to identify what looked like Hassan's son's bed. I then showed a screenshot of that video to a local resident, and she identified that person as Safwan Shibli. She also told me that the person that appears seconds later in the video was Safwan Shibli's mother. We know that she was killed after that. We identified more than 185 civilians killed during the operation. This was based on witness testimony, as well as photo and videographic evidence. The footage and the photographs help to corroborate information that we receive from survivors, but it also helps us get a fuller picture of what happened on that day. One of the patterns that emerged was that opposition fighters were systematically killing adult men and trying to keep women and children alive to hold them as hostages. According to opposition sources, there are now over 200 residents from the area held hostage. We're not just talking about a few rogue actors. We're talking about a pre-planned, meditated pattern of abuse that was intentionally undertaken. These abuses do amount to crimes against humanity. By identifying the perpetrators of these violations, we are trying to ensure that all individuals will be held to account. We are calling for an arms embargo against groups that were responsible for fundraising, planning, and commanding this operation. The individuals or countries that are supporting these groups are now on notice about the types of violations that they are committing and could be complicit in war crimes and crimes against humanity if they continue to support them.